What's going on, YouTube? Thank you for checking back in with another TDH upload. This is part 3 for our 1972 Johnson 6 horsepower outboard engine. I've got the carburetor here in front of me, and we're going to go ahead and start ripping this guy apart so that way we can get prepped up for a rebuild. If you're on this video to see the rebuild, here's the part number that I'm using, 187043. And this is a Sierra part number. This is not an OEM gasket kit. We were unable to find one or come across one here locally or in any of the stores that I was shopping. I'm sure you could probably get it online, but I bought this from my local marine store. Alright, so you guys don't want to hear me run my mouth. You guys want to see this thing get taken apart, so let's dive in. Let me clean this thing off. This has got a bunch of sand from the thermostat. Alright. Alright. Let's get this gasket off of there. Amazing. Nice and clean. Awesome. You know what I'm realizing though? I didn't get a new float in this kit. That kind of sucks. Let's see if I can push this pin out. We do have the little float valve on the bottom of this guy still attached, so we got to remember to pull that off. There's the pin there. Here's our needle buddy. And float, it's not in bad condition. I'd like to put a new one in. I'm just gonna slide this pin back in just so that way I don't lose it. Set that over to the side with my seat. The rest of the carburetor looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. Pull this gasket off here, O-ring. Gonna need a smaller screwdriver.
Awesome. Pretty clean. Pretty clean.
Little Teflon washer there. And it might be tough for you guys, but you can see right through it. Not gummed up. Alright, get this carb cleaner open here. Get my little guy out. Go ahead and spray this in to the carburetor. And that's if I can get this thing in. Alright. Okay, I'll give that a couple minutes just to sit. Let that carburetor cleaner do its thing. This carb is in really good condition, so I'm not too worried about it. I thought for sure that this carburetor was going to be gunked up, causing our idle issue. I'm starting to think that just in general, because of the loose bolt here on the carb, that this gasket wasn't seated up all the way to the intake, and what I think was happening was that it was allowing air to be sucked in through it, which was causing it not to idle correctly. because no matter what I did with the fuel adjustment screw for the low speed end, I could not get it to idle at a low RPM. Okay guys, while we're letting this soak, I opened up my bag of gaskets and O-rings and such. This kit is for several different other motors. I want to say it's for the 7s, the 8s, and maybe the 9.5s. I could be incorrect, but you'll get a couple different gaskets. I'm just matching my old gasket up with my new one. Boom, know that's good. I'm gonna go ahead and throw that on the motor now. Intake gasket is good. Now what I'm going to be doing is just comparing some of my O-rings with the old ones. We've got this drain plug here with this old O-ring on here. Getting it swapped out for the new one. Boom, that's good to go. Here's our float needle and seat. We'll get that opened and assembled here in just a second. Here is this large washer. Will be sitting up here. So that's good to go. Set these old ones to the side. And then it also looks like it comes with a new float rod. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull the old one out. Sit there with my old parts. Just compare it, make sure. Yep, right size. I'm going to slide it back into my float. Just so that way I know where it is. And I think as far as these plugs go, I don't think I'm going to mess with them too much, because as clean as this carburetor is, I don't really see the need to punch those out and clean them. I mean, this thing is, somebody had to have been in here because of that bolt being loose. Dripping on me a little bit there. Let me stop messing with that. But we do need one more thing in here, and that would be our float needle hanger or attachment, whatever you guys want to call that. This little guy, that thing is tiny. Set that over here. And yep, you'll have the rest of these O-rings and such for other kits. And we do have one more O-ring that will be for our fuel mixture needle. So it's been about, I'd say, 30 minutes or so. Most of the carb cleaner is starting to evaporate. I'm just going to hit this with some compressed air and start cleaning this out. I'm sure you have already noticed, I went ahead and popped the drain plug back in there. I've blown it out twice already. Nice and dry, clean of debris. Go ahead and grab the main body of the carburetor and do the same. Okay. Got the Teflon washer on there. You guys can see. Not super tight, just snug it up. This is where it gets fun here. The needle. Here's my old one. I'm just going to use this old one as a reference. All right. New needle is on there. All right, float is all cleaned up, and I did triple check to make sure that it did in fact float, and it is good. So go ahead and get this guy mounted back on there. And that looks pretty darn level inside that carb there. We'll get this thing reassembled, or rest of the way assembled, I should say. There we go. Float pin is not letting the housing down all the way. I think I'm gonna just go ahead and put the original back in, since it's in pretty good condition overall. And it's brass. Much nicer part overall. That's kind of the good thing about buying the OEM stuff, you know. You can see how flush that is on either side now. And how that drops right on. So, that's a little frustrating, but it is what it is. Nothing I can do about it. Go ahead and get this guy screwed back together. And then the last thing I've got to do is get my O-ring and my washer squared away on the needle. I thought that it had split in half, but both of them came out as they should. Up, snug them up. Okay, make sure my drain's snugged up. Perfect. Okay, now my last thing to deal with is the actual fuel mixture needle. Okay, went ahead and installed the fuel mixture needle. Pulled out 2 of the red packing washers. I was under the impression that it was an O-ring, but it was not. It's actually a packing washer. So I've got both of those in there, and I've got this ran all the way down till it bottoms out, and then I backed it out roughly a turn and a half, 1 full turn and then half a turn. And I do believe she's ready to be reinstalled. I've got my new intake gasket on there. We're going to go ahead and slide the carb in. Go under real quick, spin her around, swing her in there. Go ahead and toss one of these bolts on here. They're nuts are sticking. sufficient. You gotta go ahead and pull that starter back out of the way. Okay, this is where it gets fun. Seven 16ths is more like it. I definitely think that was the root of our issue. Was that it was loose and it was probably pulling air in after the carb. Because I did notice that it was losing a little bit of prime in the bulb, and that's a brand new bulb. But I do have the gray fuel line, and I've heard horror stories about the gray fuel line. So it sounds like I'm going to be replacing that soon enough. That's snugged. That's snugged. Now this is the tricky part. Getting this piece back in without dropping the washer. Alright, that rides as it should. That got snugged up a good bit. Hopefully it won't back out. Of course, I got it the first time around. There we go. Just wants to be his hand and neck. Wonderful. All I gotta do is pop this guy back on. My half turn. Now I just gotta put this little clamp back on the fuel line and we are good to go. I think I'll throw the plugs back in it. We'll drop her in some water and crank her up. All right. Get it hooked up, stroke's on. Water's moving now that we cleaned it. Yep, you leave the needle there. Look at that. Awesome. Awesome. Look at that water, it's moving. Thank God we put a frickin' thermostat in there. I'm gonna get that head gasket, get that ordered in, clean all that out, wipe out that water jacket, and I bet you we'll be ready to rock and roll. Oh, and I gotta get that, gosh darn it, the pin for the shaft. I gotta get that replaced also. Alright, going into gear. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Let's check reverse. Got reverse. Oh yeah, this is awesome. I'm gonna let her run for a couple more minutes, and then I'll shut her down and we'll close out this video. Well, that is a wrap for today's upload. I want to thank you guys for tuning in and watching. If you have made it this far, I really appreciate it. Be on the lookout for part 4. We're going to go ahead and pick up a head gasket tomorrow for that unit, get that installed, and then I have to get a new roll pin for that shaft. I got to stop running this motor without that roll pin because it needs that pressure on the bottom of that spring to keep that seal on the bottom of the power head all squared away. So we're going to run up to the boathouse place tomorrow, grab one of those, grab the head gasket. They should have both of those in stock, and then we can get that installed on the motor, and then hopefully get the motor dropped on the back of the John boat and take it out in the water in part 4. So, and also my new tripod showed up. So now we have a tripod again, rather than the janky one that broke the freaking leg. So awesome. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you. I'll see you in the next upload. Later. Always in the dark.